going better. Not as anxious this time, Jimmy. Let's watch. Look at Michael. This time Vassar brings the field down under control, slows them down. Now he makes the run. We are set for a start. They look closer, and yes, they do get the green flag. Look at Tracy down the outside. This is the critical moment. Can they all squeeze through here? Paul Tracy was the aggressor in the pack. He jumped straight away into third position, but it's Vassar leading Pruitt. Down to the no-fear chicane, down towards the hard left-hander at A&A, and it's Vassar, Pruitt, Paul Tracy on the attack. Tracy will waste absolutely no time at all getting on with the job, and miraculously, they're through those first two chicanes in the opening lap without any drama. Looks good so far. Scott Pruitt now hounding Jimmy Vassar, the two teammates, Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi in 5th and 6th. So Michael has not made a move yet. First time up the end of the Esplanade. Very fast, 300 kilometres an hour. Vassar, Pruitt, cleanly over the curbing. Nobody throwing cars around too hard at the moment. That's Tracy in the background. Zanardi in behind him in 4th place. This is a very clean start, Derek Daly. Remember what Jim McGee said earlier on. Vassar has more downforce. He believes the Honda engine has more power to pull it. Reynard in the lead versus Lola in 2nd position. Penske chassis in 3rd place. It's Honda, then it's Ford, then it's Mercedes-Benz in the power plant department. But Vassar looks as though he's going to come around and lead at the end of lap number 1, hotly pursued by Scott Pruitt, a very fit young man, but a man that came back from a dreadful accident in 1990. But he is determined to make his mark on IndyCar racing. Leads the championship coming into this 3rd round. Onto the main straight, end of the 1st lap. Jimmy Vassar leads this field. It's the end of the 2nd lap now, I should mention, because they did one under yellow in this 65-lap journey. Vassar, Pruitt, Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi, Parker Johnston, Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, Andre Rivero, Robbie Gordon, Gilles de Ferran. And we saw the power of the Honda down that long straight into the Bartacart chicane. And under braking, Scott Pruitt comes up behind Jimmy Vassar. And they are beginning to edge away ever so slightly from Paul Tracy, the first car on Goodyear tires. Look at Pruitt again, right up behind Vassar under braking. Scott's just sizing up opportunities at the moment. He's got good rhythm already. Nobody's locked a brake. Everybody's using all of the road. He's just going to sit there, think about this for a moment. Does he have the speed or doesn't he? It takes a little while for the car to settle down. By now, the brakes have come up to temperature. The tyres are nearly there. The tyres are still pressuring. They're still getting temperature just right. And, of course, the drivers themselves are just getting into the right kind of rhythm. They're getting a feel for the car. Remember, it's very heavy. It's got 40 US gallons, 180 litres of fuel on board. Vassar's chicane, here's the difficult one. Vassar doesn't even hit the curbs. So this car, we saw him in qualifying yesterday, didn't plow over the top of the curb like Michael Andretti or Robbie Gordon. So Vassar looks to be in really good shape here. Pruitt, tiny bit sideways behind him. Ford engine versus Honda. The critical thing that they won't want to do in these first couple of laps, and these two guys are showing a great example of it at the moment, Derek, is they won't want to chew tyres up early. There's no percentage at the moment in tearing the car apart, and they won't want to use the rubber up too much. Already, there's a gap established between Vassar and Pruitt now. He's just eased out a little on that second flying lap, so it's Vassar from Pruitt, still in 3rd position, and on the charge is Paul Tracy. A small gap then back to Alex Zanardi. Michael Andretti still in 5th position, then Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate, Parker Johnstone, Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, Andre Rivero, Robbie Gordon, Gilles de Ferran. The order has not changed. Notice one car in the background then went through, sounded like it was wildly off song, but it was down in the pack. Oh, Pruitt makes a big lunge under brakes. I think he just nipped the front left that time too. You can see clearly under braking he's stable, although all of these cars look to be a little bit unstable under braking, but Pruitt able to size things up here. Consistency over the long run is what they're looking for here. Tracy still 3rd. Give you an idea of the difference in pace. Jimmy Vassar qualified at 1:35.2. That last lap for Vassar were 1:39.67, which is his fastest lap so far. They're about 4 seconds away from their qualifying pace, which you'd expect at this early stage. Can't make a mistake. Vassar is under pressure. Already a winner this year at the opening race at Homestead. Almost a winner last year when he was given a win in Portland after Al Jr. was disqualified. Here's a McDonald's slow-mo replay. You can see how imperfect he is. Doesn't bounce over the top of the curb and just
a tiny kiss. Vassar looks really good through the chicane.
Pressure maintained on leader Jimmy Vassar. Not trying to get too much power oversteer coming onto the front straight. Vassar now using all of the power. 900 horsepower as he flashes past our commentary point. That time through a 138.7. So slowly now building speed into the car. Still Pruitt in second place. Is there something wrapped around the roll bar on that car, Derek, or is it just my eyes deceiving me?
No, there seems to be. We've been watching this for the last couple of laps. You can see just under a second now between Vassar and Pruitt, but there seems to be
some debris,
a piece of loose bodywork or debris wrapped around the roll bar on Jimmy Vassar's car. It doesn't seem to slow him down. Yeah, there it is there, right in front of our camera lens. Whatever that is will obviously cause some drag and obviously take away our wonderful pictures. You know what it is? It's a marker cone. It's one of the marker cones from the chicane. Now, Vassar obviously didn't hit that himself because I don't think it would have ended up there. But I don't think that will cause Vassar any trouble. In fact, I don't even know whether he realizes it's there.
Jimmy Vassar, Scott Pruitt, first and second in this race. The two men that head the leader table going into this third round. Interesting to look further back. We've talked down to around about 12th to 13th. Behind Robbie Gordon, we've got Bobby Rahal, Al Jr., Mauricio Gugelmin, Bosell. That's down through the top 15. So the order's still Vassar, Pruitt, Tracy, Zanardi, Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi, Parker Johnston, Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, Andre Ribeiro. And you just heard in the background that squealing, that tearing sound. Someone is giving the brakes a real workover. Just locking up a tyre. If you put a flat spot on a tyre because you leave that brake locked for too long, you can do irreparable damage and that'll bring someone into the pits too early. That didn't sound long enough, mind you, but you have to be mindful of it.
No, but I think it was Jimmy Vassar. Still got that piece of the marker cone on his roll bar. Doesn't seem to cause him any trouble. Still inching away from Scott Pruitt, who's edging away from Paul Tracy. Tracy now 3.5 seconds behind Jimmy Vassar. So Vassar has the measure of the Goodyear tire car, the Penske. The two boys on the Firestone tires beginning to run away. Vassar is in control. Fastest lap of the race as we speak. But look at Scott Pruitt. He was about 10 to 15 car lengths behind as they went by down the front straight. And Emerson Fittipaldi, that looks terminal. Whenever you take the engine cover off like that, and the side pod very cover, seldom you get back into serious competition. So possibly electrical troubles for Emerson. John?
Yeah, Michael Knight from Vassar's team. Michael, what's the problem with the debris?
Well, we don't think there is any problem. Apparently, Jimmy hit one of the marker cones, and it's up between his helmet and the roll bar. There's no damage to the car. This is a long race. Everybody's going to be worrying about fuel mileage, brakes, gearbox, etc. But the way, in terms of any damage to the car, there's no problem with the Target Reynard Honda.
You think these boys are on the limit? Look at Vassar kicks the tail out there between the low-speed corners. This is our onboard camera looking at the back of Vassar's car. You'll see Pruitt. Look at him. Closes right up under braking. And then Vassar unleashes this 900-plus turbocharged Honda horsepower and draws away to get in the comfort zone down along this long, long front straight at over 300 Ks. Before he breaks for the first again. Look at the cars fighting for grip as they turn and get on the brake pedal.
Very awkward approach to that turn one, Derek, because you're not stopping in a straight line. You're sneaking gently to the right all the time, and if that unbalances the car too much, it's very easy to lock a brake. I tell you what, it's lucky that that piece of debris has wrapped itself around the roll hoop, and while it may be disturbing the air to the rear wing, it could be worse if it was actually perched up there on the rear wing.
Leaf manifold?
I'm in Emerson Fittipaldi's pit. He's just left. There'd been some sort of electrical problem with the car. He was banging his hand on the steering wheel as he took off, but he's now back in the action. We'll see if we can find out a bit more for you.
And Emerson, another driver who was much better off this morning in the warm-up. He was 14th fastest, which is a bit better than his 18th qualifying position. But essentially, he is out of serious competition for the day because these boys here will not wait for anybody. Moving back a little bit now, Zanardi trying to hold off Michael Andretti. So teammates trying to hold off teammates here.
This is a dominant performance from the Firestone shod cars. Vassar in control. Reynard chassis followed by a Lola. Little bit of power oversteer in the second gear, 90-degree corners. Very hard to control these high horsepower cars through these corners. Remember that at 65, 70 kilometres an hour, there's very, very little influence from the wings on the car because they're not generating enough speed to be able to push the car onto the road. So the cars are quite slow across the face of those corners. When they gas up out the other side, it leaves great big black licorice straps as they try and put all 900 ponies down.
And we would gladly bring you onboard camera shots looking over Jimmy Vassar's shoulder, but you can see that marker cone is still blocking our onboard camera lens, but it's not doing Vassar any trouble at all.
It's just not very considerate at all, is it really, Derek? He's just not thinking of showbiz at all.
I'm sure he'd be glad to see it fly off and jump right into the radiator intake of Scott Pruitt's car. Again, look at Pruitt under braking.
1 minute 38.1 on the last lap for Jimmy Vassar. 38.26 for Scott Pruitt. Vassar can probably afford to control the pace to some extent.
Did you see how close Pruitt was to the wall there as he exited onto that long back straight? Tracy is third, Zanardi is fourth, and Michael Andretti is closing on Alex Zanardi.
Michael Andretti with a lot of attitude on the car as we look at race leader Jimmy Vassar coming onto the front straight now, applying all that horsepower beneath the Bartercard Bridge, and Vassar still leads with a reasonable margin over Scott Pruitt. That's Scotty in the background there. In third placing, it's still Paul Tracy. Alex Zanardi is fourth, Michael Andretti is fifth, Christian Fittipaldi is sixth, Greg Moore the next man, Parker Johnston, Adrian Fernandez and Gilles de Ferran. Lap 9 of 65. Debris still sitting up there on the roll hoop behind Jimmy Vassar's helmet.
So much experience. Jimmy Vassar has started racing when he was 6 years of age, believe it or not, in what they call a quarter midget in America. Raced that until he was 12, then he began to get into midgets, suddenly got into single-seater racing cars, won the Formula Atlantic Championship, and had a mentor in America that put him into Indy cars, and he's never looked back since. Actually helped by Rick Gallup. We saw Rick Gallup at the top of our show earlier, who also helped Alan Sir Jr. He also assisted Jimmy Vassar get his career off the ground.
A couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to do a tour of the Chip Ganassi workshop in Indianapolis, Derek. It's a beautiful facility over there that they run, very well organised by Tom Anderson and his team. Laboratory-style conditions, and look at Vassar running away at the moment. It's only early days, but this performance, the Honda-powered Reynard on Firestone rubber, looking very convincing indeed. 57 IndyCar starts for Jimmy Vassar. A fantastic win at Miami, qualified third, an 8th place in Rio, had some problems there but qualified a brilliant second. He's running hot in 96, you can't afford to do that, Jimmy. Locks the front right as he makes the approach to the final left-hander that brings you onto the straight. Everybody's doing it. The problem is this place is so rough. It's a conventional street circuit. You can bounce the front wheels very easily on here. Once you've got your foot jammed on the brake pedal, when those wheels come off the ground, they stop, they lock, you put a flat spot on the tyre, you're in trouble.
And sometimes it looks a little bit easy, and then you realize that these drivers are absolutely on the limit. When they jump on the brake pedal, lock up those front brakes, clip the curbs, try and stay away from the walls. These drivers are absolutely on the limit, trying to race each other. Tracy still third, Zanardi is fourth, Michael still chasing Zanardi, trying to close in on him. Christian Fittipaldi is sixth, Greg Moore, rookie sensation, we mentioned him earlier, and look how close he is to the wall there.
Vassar was 3 foul off that concrete wall, then he was so close to it. There's the marker cone stuck in front of our onboard camera. Just see Jimmy's helmet to the left. Sequential gearbox in these cars, that's why they down change through each gear. This is the left-hander at the end of the Esplanade. The S's.
6-speed gearbox for the Reynard, 5-speed gearbox for the Lola, currently in second place. Vassar uses second for the low-speed corners.
Yellow flags.
And Scott Pruitt uses first. We are under a full course yellow.
Greg Moore in trouble, was it?
For this incident here with Parker Johnstone, who plants his Reynard Honda straight into the wall. And that will necessitate a tow vehicle because he is in the racing line, a double yellow. Parker Johnson did that earlier on today, and they fixed it. So he may have maybe some brake trouble with that.
There was something strange there because the previous car through, which was Greg Moore, also had the big understeer across the apex of the corner, and I would suggest that perhaps there was some debris on the edge of the road. It's caught Parker out. He's planted the thing in the tyres, and problems here with the Toyota Eagle.
Fangio actually was in the pit lane 2 laps before that incident with Parker Johnstone. We saw him go by our commentary box here. The Toyota has only finished one race this year so far without any trouble, but very much a learning curve for Manuel Fangio. That man from Argentina. And of course Dan Gurney here running the operation.
Yeah, it's a very tough thing to do, to develop not only a chassis but also an engine. Let's take a look at the McDonald's replay. You see that Parker gets up on the ripple strip, bounces the car into the marbles, the dust on the outside of the corner, bang into the tyres. Very low speed impact, but enough to stop the car and put him out of business. Hopefully there's no damage to the front wings, and maybe, just maybe, we can get him started. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Lap 13 of 65. Jimmy Vasser the leader with a gap of 1.3 seconds from Scott Pruitt. Paul Tracy is third in the Penske chassis. Alex Zanardi fourth, and fifth is Michael Andretti and charging. We're back with more IndyCar action in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Gold Coast on the Indy Carnival. The first incident of the day involves Parker Johnstone, who hit the chicane. His car is about to be taken away. There's one lap to go, but now we have closed up the whole field, and the first man to try and outsmart everybody else has been Al Unser Jr. He went straight down the pit lane, made his pit stop, filled it up with fuel. He is now down at the back of the grid, but here's what he's trying to do. He will wait till everybody makes their first official pit stop. He will stay out, and then we'll probably see him run at the very front of this pack.
List there for you of the top 20 positions after 12 laps of this competition. Fittipaldi's been in the pits a couple of times, 3 times in fact, so it's not a good day for Emerson. John Smales?
Yes, indeed. I have Parker Johnson with me. Parker, what happened?
Well, from the beginning of the race, we were down on boost, and I was trying to compensate by driving absolutely as hard as I could, trying to get the most out of the Honda engine without boost and most out of the Firestone tires and the Renard chassis, and I got in just that inch too deep into the corner, clipped the curb, and couldn't get it back in time and went into the outside wall. And it's a shame because all the folks at Motorola really needed a good finish today, and that's motor racing, I guess.
Found the Crompton tyres down there.
I think he got everybody mentioned, didn't he?
In 10 seconds he went through the whole lot.
I think he did.
Impressive. So Jimmy Vasser leads this race from Scott Pruitt, Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi, Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, Gilles de Ferran, Robbie Gord. And interesting strategy from Al Unser and Roger Penske and his crew who have brought little Al in early, grabbed some gas, and maybe use that opportunity to leapfrog the field when these guys eventually run down in fuel load. Look at that fantastic shot looking south back down the Gold Coast as 20-odd thousand horsepower roams around this 4.5 kilometre circuit.
And in fact, they brought a total of 47 Indy cars here. It took 2 747 cargo planes to drag everything down here. They couldn't even do it in one stop. They had to make fuel stops in San Francisco, Hawaii, the Fiji Islands, and come Sunday night, everything is packed up, go back to the 747s, and they take them home for the next round at Long Beach.
That wasn't fuel, they just wanted to stop in those places and rest a while.
I think you're right. Here we go. Vasser can accelerate right from here. Here they go. It's a drag race all the way down, 300 Ks plus, down to the Bartocart chicane. Michael will have taken advantage of this because he was edging up on Zanardi, and Zanardi hopefully will be edged up on Paul Tracy and give us a good race here. There's Zanardi, there's Michael, there's Christian Fittipaldi, left side of the picture. Everybody will have to make a stop for fuel. It's running now, except Al Unser Jr., so we will keep you updated on his progress. Rear view from Vasser. Pruitt has not made a move yet, but he looks threatening, particularly in those braking zones.
Jimmy did a good jump at the restart. He managed to put a gap, an air gap there between himself and Scott. And in actual fact, Paul Tracy is a little bit better positioned now, all thanks to the caution period. And now with the rhythm of the race changing once again, everybody will be inspired. Look at Tracy throw that car across the right-hander, heading up the back straight.
And Neil, did you see Vasser over the top of the curb? We have not seen him do that. He doesn't like to do it too much. He didn't do it here. He gets her sideways as he exits that chicane. Paul Tracy looms in the mirrors of Scott Pruitt. Tracy so good on these cold-tired laps. When you come away from yellow, Tracy usually tries to pounce. Oh, Michael got by Zanardi, so Michael takes advantage, and pulls one over Alex Zanardi.
It's a critical time here to maintain your race pace, but bear in mind that you've got cooler tyres and that the pressures will have altered while you've been slowing down. Great shot of Paul Tracy at the office, working hard at the wheel. They are very busy men around this circuit.
Tracy hit the wall 3 times on Friday, bent a track rod. They flew in special shock absorbers. He loved them, said the car was so much better. They flew more in for Unser Jr. and Emerson, who never really got on with their cars, but Tracy is the man holding and flying the flag for Penske. There's Pruitt again, under-braking right up under the wing of Vassar.
See Scotty using the curbing, just unloading the car, unweighting it slightly, putting the front wheel up on top, not upsetting it too much. Jim McGee and the guys at Patrick Racing have got the shocks and springs on that car working very nicely.
And he said they will run a little bit less downforce than Vassar in the Honda because they wanted to be fast down the straight. Well, they can be glad they didn't run any less because Vassar still has the legs on him down the straight. Good opportunity here to jump on board with Michael Andretti. That is Paul Tracy right ahead of him. So Michael is beginning to get into the thick of the fight here.
Listen to the forward. Foster's chicane, 100 kilometres an hour. Oh, Adrian Fernandez, Gilles de Ferran problems. De Ferran's kept the engine running, grabbed the gear, and he's off.
And that was a quick snipper there. Not a good day for De Ferran. He broke a throttle cable yesterday. Didn't qualify well, but here's the battle here. Michael versus Paul Tracy. Never, never leave the door even slightly open when someone like Michael Andretti is behind you, because if he can't force his way, he'll drive over the top of you if necessary.
These guys are a couple of hardheads, teammates last year. In fact, Michael very nearly won this race. Listen to this car. It is beautiful to listen to. Replay of the incident.
That is Christian Fittipaldi trying to go down the inside of Zanardi. Oh, Zanardi puts the squeeze job. Do they make it? And then De Ferran just drop kicks Fernandez from the back. Drop kicks him. Just about gets away with it. But in fact, De Ferran has just gone by our commentary box position here on the rev limiter down the pit lane, so he's obviously been forced to make a stop. Michael still chasing Paul Tracy.
Sequential gearbox in these cars, I mentioned. Michael pulling back on the lever. There's a spark cut, a spark interrupt on the actual gear lever, which enables him to flat shift. He doesn't lift his throttle at all, upshifting in this car. He's chasing Paul Tracy, squeezing every last little bit of grunt out of this car now. Let's listen.
Oh, he's good under brakes. He's good under the braking zone here. Oh, he clouts the curb. Michael is superb. Such good value when he's in these situations in full attack mode. Looks good. Looks really good.
He's a street fighter. Tracy, a little bit of power oversteers. Second gear on the exit, just hangs the tail. That's Pruitt in second. There's Tracy. There's Michael. John Smales?
Yes, indeed, Neil Crompton. Back in 11th position, Robbie Gordon has lost his rear vision mirror. The crew's now working to fabricate another rear view mirror to put it on at the first pit stop.
Unusual problem. Michael Andretti at the office. Let's listen to that gear shift. This is the end of the front straight, down changing. Notice how Michael sinks in the car. 6-point harness, 3-inch webbing. It's got hold of him. He cannot move, and yet he still submarines into the car under brakes.
No fear chicane. Third gear. Last up. This is a 265k run to the two 90-degree left-handers. Now, we saw Emerson in trouble earlier on. He is in real trouble now. He's with Leaf Manifold.
Fittipaldi is out of the car at the moment. Emerson, what happened?
Well, I had an engine problem. I was very disappointed because the car was running strong and I was in a good pace. That's a shame.
Thank you, Emerson. Emerson Fittipaldi out of the race.
Of course, I meant he was in real trouble because he was out of the race, not because he was talking to our Leaf Manifold.
Jimmy Vassar, our race leader.
Tracy now consumed in his battle with Michael Andretti. Has to be slightly defensive. That allows the two front runners to just inch away. But Michael is putting pressure on his former teammate here. Remember what happened? Oh, no, he's going to hit him. Tag him. Whoa.
Well, oh dear. Zanardi in trouble trying to round up Tracy, who punched it in first gear and sent it straight over to the other wall.
What did we just say? If Michael tries to squeeze by, he'll drive over the top of you if necessary, and he has caused an absolute motorway traffic jam here.
What is going on? Christian Fittipaldi tied up in this. Tracy's tied up. We've got about 20 cars mixed up in this. It all came about when Michael made a crazy lunge down the inside of Tracy from too far out, locked the front brakes, speared into the back of Paul. Let's take a look at the onboard camera shot here. McDonald's replay tells the story.
Tries to come down the inside. Way too ambitious a move to make on a man like Paul Tracy. Tracy turns in, as he should. Whacks the wheel there. Tracy's on his way to kiss the concrete.
He only got to the rear wheel. He didn't get far enough down the inside of him. Tags Paul. Paul spins, backs it into the wall gently. Michael trips over. I think he trips over the front wing on the way. Then he put it in first gear, drove it forward, went straight to the wall, had no manoeuvring space, and caused the world's biggest traffic jam.
And in fairness to Paul Tracy, Michael had no business trying to pull that move off. That was never going to happen. Locks up those front wheels, knows he's in deep trouble, loses the steering, plows into the side of Paul Tracy. I am shocked that Michael Andretti got away with that maneuver. I don't know whether he has damaged steering or damaged front wings, but he was very lucky to get away with that ill-timed maneuver. And Paul Tracy, of course, gets drop-kicked and gets the worst of it.
Christian Fittipaldi, I just noticed, went to the pits as well, Derek. The thing about street circuits is you have to take calculated risks, but that one from Michael Andretti was just too ambitious. He couldn't really do the job. In fact, I was surprised that he made a lunge, given that he wasn't really even underneath the rear wing of Paul Tracy's car. You saw what happened. He locked the front brakes. The minute that happens, of course, not only takes you longer to stop the car, but the thing won't steer. We had a graphic example of what happens when those front wheels aren't turning.
Paul Tracy, who was so dominant in the opening race in Homestead, Florida, is now, had a gearbox problem. Now we watch Christian Fittipaldi.
I still haven't quite put together in my mind exactly what happened in the aftermath of all that, who was stopped and who wasn't. Anyway, Christian's come in, received some service, off on his way. Disappointment for him because he was running well.
Yeah, but Tracy, the bad luck man of the season so far, he was really a championship contender, but it's all beginning to fall apart now around him.
New order, Jimmy Vasser the leader, Scott Pruitt in second, Michael Andretti hangs on to third position. Alex Zanardi is fourth, Greg Moore is fifth, Bobby Rahal moving up substantially to sixth, Robbie Gordon seventh, Gugelman in his eighth, as we look still at Paul Tracy. Al Unser Jr. is ninth. Watch out for that strategy on the pit stop for him, and then behind him is Brian Herter. Paul abandoned ship.
And wait till you see what happens.
This will be an interesting chat in the pit lane.
Oh, it's going to go full course yellow. They cannot restart Paul Tracy, so they will be forced to send out the toter to drag him off the racetrack. Full course yellow. Now everybody else has an opportunity to cancel the advantage that Alonso Jr. may have had. Here's a real-time play. Look at this. Here, Tracy backing into the concrete.
I'll be surprised if Michael doesn't.
Now watch what happens here. See, he had hoped to spin it around 90 degrees and get on his way.
He didn't have enough steering lock to do the job.
Didn't have enough. Paul Tracy walks away disconsolate. He is the fastest man at Team Penske. He is dynamite on his day. He looks superb here. And he gets drop-kicked, unfortunately. Leader is in.
Jimmy Vasser in there in the background.
Scott Pruitt is in also.
Yep.
Pruitt could not make the pass on the racetrack. Can he make the pass in the pit lane? Michael is also in, so Michael got away with it.
Takes about 13 seconds to fill the tanks. And he's out and away. It's Michael. Great rush into the pit lane at the moment as they all sort themselves out.
There goes Al Unser Jr. Now the strategy beginning to fall into his lap. Alex Zanardi comes in. So Vasser did make it out, still ahead of Scott Pruitt. So the order has not changed, but look at the man who now lurks in, I believe, third place. It's Al Unser Jr. who can read these races along with Roger Penske as well, if not better, than most people. Al Jr. has a light fuel load. All of the cars ahead of him now have a full fuel load, including that man there, Michael Andretti.
Michael got away with that incident, Paul Tracy, remarkably well. Doesn't appear to be any great front wing damage, and it doesn't appear to have any steering damage. So, we're in caution here on the Gold Coast. We'll be back with more of this fantastic race in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Gold Coast, the Bartercard Indy Carnival, and justice may be about to be served for Michael Andretti, because he will get a stop-and-go penalty when it goes green again for a pit speed violation. John Smales?
And Derek, this is the cone that almost boned Jimmy Vasser. Michael Knight, where was it on the car?
It was lodged on the right-hand side of the car between Jimmy's helmet and the roll bar, and as you can, we just wanted all the great Australian fans to see how it was sort of torn away, but there's no damage to the Target Reynard Hondas. Jimmy's doing well. We're going on from here.
Thank you.
Now the new fight gets set up. Ray Hall is in 7th place. He is always threatening. He understands how to read races too. Paul Tracy's car gets taken to the graveyard. Scott Pruitt is still second, but Al Unser Jr. is in a very threatening 3rd place on a lighter fuel load than Vasser or Scott Pruitt. So don't take your eyes off Al Unser Jr. The Porsche 911 Turbo. Is it a turbo? Leads them all down. Jeff Brabham, who's in our studio, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just interested to point out that Andretti, did the desperate on Paul Tracy, and then when he came out of the pits, he had Paul Tracy's teammate Al Jr. right in front of him again. So that move just got rid of one Penske, but then got another Penske in front of him. But now with the stop-and-go penalty, of course, that cancels that all out.
You may be curious as to how they can get a pit speed violation. All of these cars are fitted with an electronic controller that is activated by a button on the steering wheel. When they activate that, the gear that they are in does not allow the engine to go over the pit speed limit, which is 80 miles an hour. So it is the driver's own fault, because he has the activation device in the car with him. Sometimes you get excited, sometimes you get emotionally driven, and the result is you get a stop-and-go penalty. You can only also serve a stop-and-go under green flag conditions. Here we go.
And we're about to get the green flag, and it's Vasser that'll lead them away. Pruitt. The 3rd car in the queue is actually Christian Fittipaldi, who's 1 lap down. Al Jr. is actually 3rd on the road. There he is, 4th position. Let's have a look at the new order now. Lap 21 of 65 as we get the green flag to go racing again. It's Vasser from Pruitt, Al Jr., Michael Andretti, Alex Zanardi. Remember though, Michael Andretti must come to the pits. 6th is Greg Moore, 7th Bobby Rahal, 8th Mauricio Gugelman, 9th is Brian Herder, and 10th is DeFerrin. 11th we've got Gordon, then it's Johansson, Bosell, Guerrero, and Lawson is 15.
And Scott Pruitt, to me, still looks to be the most threatening of all here. He seems to move his car around, very good under braking. Doesn't need to try and squeeze past Jimmy Vasser yet, like we saw Michael try and do with Tracy. But Pruitt still looks very good. But catching somebody is one thing. Making a pass between these concrete walls is something very, very different. Look at Al Jr. Look at Al Jr. That's not for position with Christian, but he does need to get ahead of him if he's to challenge Scott Pruitt.
If you've just joined us, Al Jr. was out of the pit stop sequence when there was that initial incident earlier in the race. Al came in at the instruction of his crew, took on fuel, took on tyres, bolted back out there. So he's out of step with the rest of them. That's very clever pit strategy. He's now 3rd in the race and in a position to actually fight.
On board with Vasser.
Flaring over the bumps. It appears to me as though Pruitt is prepared to use a little more of the brakes than Vasser is at this stage, although Vasser has the advantage of being the car in front and the guy with clear air. He can, to some extent, afford to control the pace because passing is very difficult on this track, Derek.
Oh, they are closer than ever before. On full tanks, Pruitt does seem to be just a smidgen quicker.
Black flag has just been shown to Michael Andretti. IndyCar officials will have gone down to his crew and informed him as to what's going on. Michael will be cursing in his helmet at the moment, but it was 86 miles an hour in an 80 mile an hour zone in the pit lane, and Pruitt closer than ever to the back of Vasser and challenging.
Lester, oh, he feints a little look down the inside. That's just to tell Jimmy Vassar, by the way, I'm going to put more pressure than usual on you now. But Scott Pruitt may be beginning to open up the door of challenge here. Vassar is under pressure. He is under pressure. Never did this before from the pole position.
And what Scott's trying to do, apart from obviously trying to lead this race, is to see whether he can upset Jimmy at all, see whether he can get his concentration to break slightly, encourage him to make a mistake. And if you can get that little gap, that's all you need, zing, away you go.
And you might wonder where Al Unser Jr. is. These two boys are beginning to pull away already. Al Jr.'s fastest lap of the race, the fastest he has managed, is a second slower than these two boys here. So the Penske does not have the measure of speed, 2.2 seconds. That's a bit optimistic. I think that's when they go down this front straight here. Under braking, it is much, much closer. Look at Vassar again. Almost inch perfect. Kisses it just a little bit there. But Vassar is as good over these curbs. And I have to say Scott Pruitt is also, as anybody we've seen all weekend. Look at these boys, still together.
Onto the main straight. Remember that Michael Andretti on the previous lap was shown the black flag. They are preparing it once again in case he hasn't got the message, but he's in. Here he is. Now, he's got to control the speed to 80 miles an hour.
Sheer frustration for a driver. A full stop, away you go.
Lights up the bags on the way out, hits the speed control, you can hear it in the background, rejoins the race circuit. How many positions has he dropped? Even if it's one, it's too many.
I don't know, but I bet Paul Tracy would have been happy to wave that black flag at Michael, and there will be words between these two afterwards, because Paul Tracy, when he sees the video, will realize how ambitious Michael was, trying to come from 2 or 3 car lengths behind, and of course, his dad, Mario Andretti, can just look on. He has seen these type of situations before, when Michael gets himself into trouble, then gets a stop-and-go penalty. But it's not over yet.
There's a long way to go.
Long way to go yet for Michael.
Still this incredibly intense situation between Jimmy Vassar and Scott Pruitt, both on Firestone, but different chassis, different engines. And we have a McDonald's replay situation here. We're looking at Bobby Rahal, Mauricio Gugelmin behind, locks up, throws the thing. Does he tag the back of it? No, he misses him.
And look who's behind him. Look who's behind him, who almost got wrapped up into another incident, was Gilles de Ferran. But Gugelmin, we saw him lock up those rears. Very seldom you do a 180 like that between these concrete walls and get away with it. But it's that very bumpy, difficult braking zone that seems to have caught out most people here. Look at that Honda, Neil. Pull away on that straight.
Little bit of a gap. A bit of a gap again at the end of that lap. Let's just check it and see what the margin is. Vassar leads from Pruitt. It's 1.09 seconds. This is Christian Fittipaldi. He's 1 lap down. Remember, there's 3rd place. Al Jr. Penske. Roger Penske, an amazing man. Employs 30,000 people worldwide. Turns over $5 billion. He sells 40,000 new cars a year. His truck rental business alone has 90,000 vehicles in the fleet. He's a successful guy.
And he's the most successful IndyCar team owner in the business, having won the Indianapolis 500 a record 10 times. Quick update on Michael Andretti. He is in 13th place as we speak. Carlos Guerrero is right ahead of him. He should deal with him quite easy. Then it goes Bozell, Johansson, and Herta, all the way up into the top 10. He will not win this race on speed. He does not have the speed in that Penske to match the front runners. Zanardi is behind him. He can only hopefully win it on other people's mistakes and on overall team strategy.
This is the latest Nigel Bennett design, a new car. A lot of revisions to this car this year. They had some problems with the car, or last year's car early in the season. In fact, they missed out on the Indianapolis 500, that most sacred of IndyCar events in 1995. But then Al came back big time in the second half of the championship, actually finishing second. People were writing him off at the start of the year. Now Zanardi, I understand, is closing a little. Let's have a look. Lap 25 is 65 on our 10 leaderboard. It's Jimmy Vassar, Scott Pruitt, Al Unser Jr., Alex Zanardi closing a bit on little Al, and Greg Moore is 5th. From Bobby Rahal to Ferran, Gordon, Herta, and Johansson. Remember that Gugelmin dropped out of that bunch. 11th is Bozell. 12th is Carlos Guerrero. 13th, Michael Andretti. That's a long way back for him. Eddie Lawson is 14th. Andre Ribeiro, 15th. That's the situation after 25 laps.
Not known to crash over the curbs. Experienced and clean. not known to qualify on the pole except for what he did 2 years ago. His history in his career has not been spectacular in qualifying, but right now he is the most successful of the active drivers in kart IndyCar racing, having won 31 race events, and he is a 6-time champion on the streets of Long Beach. Leith Manifold, you got a big story for us down there.
Yes, I have indeed. Derek, Paul Tracy, what happened?
Well, I was running well. The Marlboro car was handling well, but I mean, Michael, the battering ram, came along, and I mean, it's textbook Michael Andretti. Run into the back of a guy and take him out for the pass. I mean, it's just disappointing.
You'll be having words to Michael?
That's for sure. I mean, he's going to get his. That's for sure.
All right, bad luck.
I would have to say, I agree with Paul Tracy. I mean, although emotion of the moment sometimes allows you to say some things you don't want to say, he is perfectly right. Michael was too ambitious in what he tried to do. And these boys here are just happy to get done what they want to do and finish the race in this Toyota.
You get the impression that Paul has marked Michael's card. Problems with the Toyota. Been a difficult program for them, I said before. Developing both engine and chassis in your first year in IndyCar competition is one big task. This is our race leader, Jimmy Vasser, driving for Chip Ganassi. It's a Reynard chassis, it's powered by a Honda, it's on Firestone tyres, and there's more fresh air between this man and second place Scott Pruitt. On the last lap, it's out to 2.8 seconds. Then back to Al Jr. In fact, the gap's getting bigger all the time. Al Jr. is about 8 seconds further back. Then Alex Zanardi, Greg Moore, and Bobby Rahal. Well, now there's got to be something wrong because that gap's huge now.
That was the gap when they went by the start-finish line, so that was the official time. But Scott Pruitt is obviously in trouble because he is a long way behind Jimmy Vasser. Did he make a mistake? If he did, it was very costly. That's the amount of road he lost. Now we will see whether Scott Pruitt truly has more speed than Vasser, because he has to make up a long piece of road.
Something weird's going on there. Can't see any obvious problem with the car. Incidentally, we've had word through from the pit lane that the Ferrin has some kind of leakage on that car. Hasn't been a happy weekend for Gilles, a very highly rated Brazilian who turned his back on Formula One in 1996 to stay with Jim Hall and the Pennzoil team. Last road course winner at the end of 95, picked up a win in Laguna Seca, and it was a great drive. But this man here, second at the moment, Scott Pruitt. Lola chassis, Ford power, Firestone tyres, the man that's done all the development work on these Firestone IndyCar tyres. Picked up the contract in 1994, did some work with Al Unser Sr. and Pat Patrick to develop these tyres. Very strong last year, finished third in this race last year, and is in very good shape at the start of this season. Okay, Michael Andretti on board. Was in 13th when I last looked, still lurking back down behind Stefan Johansson, Little Leaf, driving for Tony Bettenhausen. That's Stefan just in front. Picked up 2 spots since I last looked, and Stefan very unhappy with the car. When I had dinner with him the other night, he was scratching his head. They changed that car last night, did a complete new setup on the car.
And this could be good value. Let's hang on here to see how he deals with Johansson.
Thing is, Derek, as you well know, on a circuit like this where passing opportunities are extremely limited, there's very few opportunities, and as we saw in that demonstration between Michael and Paul Tracy, unless you are well and truly into the peripheral vision of the other driver, almost impossible to pass. You've got to be much quicker to be able to do the job. And the other car fumbled you. You saw there that Michael was probably a little slower off that corner than he'd otherwise have been.
And that was the scene of the crime right there. That's Brian Herta right ahead of Johansson. So Michael, he could get 2 places in quick succession. And look at this. He looks down the inside of Johansson.
No headlights
lines him up.
And wheel will be able to flash, that's for sure. We've seen the fist come out of the cockpit, though, on occasions. Brian Herta, an interesting story, driving for Bobby Rahal and Team Shell for 96. Former Indy Lights champion. Had a pretty tough time in his IndyCar competition in the last couple of years. Let's go down to John Smales.
With Gerald Davis, team manager for Gilles de Ferran. What's the problem with the car, Gerald?
The car seems to be fine. We don't have a problem. We're just hanging on. We'll do one stop, make it to the end.
We've been told that you've got a leak of some point.
Well, they reported that, but everything looks fine. All the temps are good on the car. Everything looks okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got a 4-second gap now between Jimmy Vasser and Scotty Pruitt. Al Jr. still third, Alex Zanardi. This is Michael Andretti we're looking at the moment, driving for Newman Haas. He is back behind Stefan Johansson in 11th position. Made a couple of placings. Remember, he did the stop-go 4 or 5 laps back. He's picked off a couple so far. We've been watching him to see whether he can make progress. This is Scotty Pruitt, second in the race at the moment. Came into this round as the points leader in the 96 IndyCar World Series. Been the strong man all weekend. Very quick in the warm-up this morning. The fastest man, in fact. Fastest from the minute they dropped this car on the road. It was only that blinding lap yesterday from Jimmy Vasser in the dying stages of qualifying that reversed the order.
And a man who still carries the scars from a terrible 1990 crash. We mentioned it earlier, got those metal braces in his back, got the rod in his back. But Scott Pruitt, fit and well and strong and fast. We'll be back with more from the Gold Coast and the Bartacart IndyCar Australia. Welcome back to the Gold Coast, and Michael Andretti has managed to claw his way past Stefan Johansson. It was not easy, though. He was made to work for every inch of road that he tried to use, but now begins to pull away, is chasing Brian Herta, but Michael is in the top 10, and Scott Pruitt is not actually closing in on Jimmy Vasser, so whatever mistake he made earlier, he is not able to close up on the leader. Vasser makes it easy, of course, on Vasser. Unser Jr. still third, Zanardi and Moore in the top 5. All the way down, Rahal, DeFerrin, Gordon, Herta, and of course Michael.
Bit of a battle unfolding at the moment between Rahal and DeFerrin and Moore. In fact, the Moore-Rahal battle starting to close up substantially. This is second place Scott Pruitt. Let's have a look at the bit of the gap here. We've got Christian Fittipaldi, who's a lap down. Further in the background there, you saw a glimpse of Al Jr. Through the Foster's chicane as we go back down to pit lane. John Smales.
Nothing's wrong with Scott Pruitt. The radio isn't working, however, on Scott's car. He can hear us, we can hear him.
But he's dropping back somewhat.
Say that again. He's dropping back somewhat.
I can't really lip read, but I think the body language suggested from Pat Patrick that there's nothing wrong with Scott Pruitt's car, although the margin between them at the moment, 4.66 seconds, and Zanardi has a problem down the escape road in the Foster's chicane. And now I wonder whether or not the brake problems that we spoke of earlier are beginning to unfold, Derek Daly. It looked to me as though Zanardi actually had lost a little bit of speed before he got the chicane anyway, but he just toured straight through there. Remember, this is the teammate to race leader, Jimmy Vasser. Oh, he's getting mixed up with traffic here. That's Jeff Krosnoff. Replay, courtesy of McDonald's. Zanardi straight ahead.
I think the dust on the escape road there makes this look a lot more dramatic than it actually is. But Zanardi, something very serious wrong with him. What a shame. He was so good here on Saturday morning when we thought he was going to capture the pole. He was on the pole in Brazil. But this, when you go this slow, it usually looks to be terminal. He still has drive, obviously, and Michael Andretti makes another pit stop.
This is out of sequence.
Something serious wrong here with Michael. This is not normal. They plug in the laptop. This is not normal for Michael. He is in deep trouble.
Surgery being done. What was that? Surgery being done. That was my voice failing about as bad as Michael's engine, I think. Now Zanardi has problems. You notice that the tools of trade in the 90s with modern motor racing are very much laptop computers, not screwdrivers or spanners.
Report from the pit lane also says that there is something making an unusual noise at the back of Bobby Rahal's car. So we're going to watch to see, does that turn into be a bigger problem. But Zanardi on the radio now takes the steering wheel off. So whatever it is, he knows it's terminal, something that they cannot fix.
Time to review the order. Jimmy Vasser, the leader from Scott Pruitt. Al Jr. is in third position. Greg Moore is in fourth position. Bobby Rahal is fifth. DeFerrin is sixth. Robbie Gordon is seventh. And it's Brian Herta and Stefan Johansson. Alex Zanardi getting out of the car. Little Italian former Formula 3000 champion.
And despite what Pat Patrick said earlier on, that there's nothing wrong with Scott Pruitt's car, here's the last 4 laps. Jimmy Vasser was 4.6 seconds ahead, 4.66, 5.3, now 6.7. So Vasser has the measure in speed over Scott Pruitt. The two championship leaders are running together at the head of this field.
Now, they're on the same brand of tyre, so unless there's a radical difference in the way that the Reynard treats its tyres compared to the Lola, I'd suggest that it maybe brakes. Let's go back down to pit lane again with John.
Alex Zanardi, what happened? It looked like a big moment.
No, well, since we had put the wheels down in the ground on Friday, we had problems with the gearbox, and we've not been able to solve it. And problem appeared once again in the race. I missed fifth gear straight away from the second lap. I drove the old race without the fifth gear, and now everything went away.
So gearbox problems for Alex Zanardi. This is Michael Andretti in the pits with a great flurry of engineers around the car from Newman-Haas and from Ford. Don't know what the problem is there yet, but obviously Alex chose to drive down the escape road at the Foster's chicane.
And Pruitt is in trouble because he is dropping further back from the leader, Jimmy Vasser. In fact, you'll see Christian Fittipaldi closing in on Scott Pruitt. Now the lead from Vasser over to Pruitt is over 7 seconds. And Michael Andretti, word from him is that he has gearbox troubles. As Rahal, we told you earlier, there was some sort of a funny noise being reported from the flag marshal stands around the race course. Well, Rahal, whatever that was, is sending him down for attention in the pit lane.
Traditionally, Derek, because this track is so bumpy and requires so much of a transmission of massive horsepower through the back of the car, through the clutch, through the gearbox, it is very hard on transmissions. And we've got a problem here with Bobby. Locks the front left.
The Farron comes down behind him.
Robbie Gordon in the background. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of transmission-related drama here today.
Rahal's finished. He's done.
Half distance, halfway through this event as Bobby Rahal steps out. 5 starts. This is the 6th start today in the Gold Coast IndyCar. Bobby Rahal will not finish today, and he's been very successful, very consistent at this event over recent years.
That ends a streak for Rahal because he had more finishes here than anybody else. He has finished this race 4 times. Came in here 6th in the championship. We featured him in a package earlier on. He is the only owner-driver here in the field. Well, he doesn't have to go and explain to his owner what happened.
He shared that honour with Danny Sullivan, who these days is doing commentary for ABC America. We're looking at Greg Moore, who's ever so gently slipping up onto the leaderboard in 4th position at the moment behind Al Jr. DeFerrin is 5th. Robbie Gordon is 6th.
Ready to go.
Down the pit lane again with lead.
Oh, what happened? Bobby Rahal, what happened?
About 15 laps ago, the gearbox, I was having difficulty downshifting. It was going past the gear, so it would go like 5th to 3rd. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And finally, it just started making death noises.
So there's no way of fixing it. You're just well and truly out of the race.
Oh, yeah, it's eating up inside. And I don't know, I'd just like to say hi to the guys back home.
Bobby Rahal from Dublin, Ohio. A very keen golfer, a man very disappointed today.
That's 2 Reynard gearboxes that has now broken. And Alex Zanardi being one of them. His teammate is in a Reynard. They had a huge amount of gearbox troubles here last year. Many of the Reynards struggled breaking gearboxes. So we're only halfway through this race.
They had a big revision of the gearbox in the Reynards early in last season. In fact, if you recall, Derek, they had big problems not just here but many of the early events, particularly the street races.
John Smales?
Yes, indeed. I have a very disappointed Mario Andretti with me. Mario, what's happening to Michael today?
A couple of things. I think what really hurt him now was the throttle position went askew and messes up the computer, so they had to bring him in because the engine just started running very rough. So that lost him a lap, and that's the tough one.
Paul Tracy is really on the rev limiter about the crash he and Michael had. What's your view of it?
I don't know. I didn't really see it, so they're going to have to sort it out among themselves.
Thank you.
And I think that's exactly what Paul Tracy said he would do, sort it out among themselves. But here's a bit of a battle here. Al Jr. needs to get by Christian Fittipaldi because he is only 2.5 seconds behind Scott Pruitt, running in second and beginning to struggle. Christian Fittipaldi is 1 lap down.
Yeah, the interesting thing, Derek, that Christian started from that other caution period that we had amongst the leaders, and he's remained there throughout. It's very disappointing for him that he had that problem early that brought him to the pits, because he would have been a factor, I think.
He would have been a factor, and he can still take advantage of whatever problem Pruitt has. Pruitt obviously doesn't believe it's severe enough to warrant making a pit stop to try and fix something. But Vassar is now a long way up the road, more than 10 seconds clear of Scott Pruitt, who has Alonso Jr. now less than 2 seconds behind him.
Lots of people with problems today. These are the cars that are out so far. Emerson Fittipaldi on lap 8 with an engine problem. Very disappointing day for Emo. Parker Johnston, contact with the wall in the Bartercard chicane, out on lap 10. Oh, Jimmy Vassar in the pits. Adrian Fernandez out with contact on lap 14. Now this looks like a scheduled stop. Fuel in, 4 wheels and tyres. Car away. That was a good stop.
Good stop. Had a 10-second cushion on the field. Remember, Pruitt has to stop. When Pruitt stops, where will Alonso Jr. be? He will be in the lead. He's out of sequence.
He just stopped. He's also just stopped. He'll come out behind Vassar. I just saw him flash by, Derek. Sorry to interrupt, but I just saw him flash by as we were talking. So we're with Jimmy Vassar. We're on board with Vassar in the Honda-powered Reynard. A fresh set of Firestone boots all round. Vassar's been the quick man so far. Best time has gone, in fact, to Jimmy Vassar so far with a 1:37.6. It's a long way from their qualifying pace, but you'd expect it to be.
There's a time you have to be careful. You're not on warm tires. They do not have tire warmers like they do in Formula One.
You hear him struggle on the rev limiter. He missed that shift. He didn't actually grab a neutral, but he was dwelling on the rev limiter. Let's listen to this car. Sequential gearbox. It's great. Sounds good. On the rev limiter there as he comes up to the left-hander. This was the spot where all the drama unfolded between Michael Andretti and Paul Tracy. Greg Moore in the background. Let's take a look at the McDonald's replay of Jimmy Vassar hard at work through the Foster's chicane. Not using the ripple strips.
One of the very best we've watched all weekend here through these chicanes, and now Greg Moore has the opportunity to finish on the podium. He could have won the first 2 races of the year on the ovals. A lot of people believe this man will have his name in lights for many years to come, because he is only 20 years of age, the second youngest man ever to drive an Indy car.
Is it just me, or do you love that sound too? Doesn't that sound fantastic when you're on board with the car?
Oh, that is one of the best, which is what onboard cameras has brought to us. You can hear and feel what's going on now. But look at Greg Moore. Oh, he has a little look down the inside. Greg Moore, remember, has a lighter fuel load. Vassar's full of fuel and fresh tires. He'll want to keep Greg Moore behind him. He won't want to be slowed up. Moore has a pit stop coming up in his future very soon. Alonso Jr. did make that stop. He went back out in 6th place. Robbie Gordon is not in good shape either. Reports from around the racetrack says he is running very roughly also, so maybe we'll see Gordon into the pit lane for attention.
You notice how much of the curbing that Jimmy used that time as he made his approach up towards the Foster's chicane. He climbed all over everything in an attempt to try and put some fresh air between himself and Greg Moore, and he's done it on this lap. He's managed to shake him. Remember, he's got fresh tyres. He should be able to do the job, but he is running heavier. He's got a full fuel load. Gap first to second, just over 18 seconds. Pruitt to Vassar.
So Jimmy Vassar continues to draw away and build that nice comfort cushion between himself and the potential second place finisher after, of course, he makes his next pit stop. So Scott Pruitt leads, but he has a pit stop in his very near future. Jimmy Vassar is second, Greg Moore is third, DeFerrin is fourth. Although he is still apparently spraying fluid. In 2 more laps though, Scott Pruitt will be in the pit lane and will be back.
Coast. We're working lap 39 of 65, round 3 of the IndyCar World Series. A McDonald's replay shows Jeff Krosnoff spearing across the Foster's chicane there, and taking out the no-fear fencing, he would have had some fear, that's for sure. And that's prompted a full course yellow, and Michael Andretti's car there being tended to, and he's getting out. Belt's undone, bad day for Michael Andretti. It'll be a very interesting chat between he and former teammate Paul Tracy.
Done for the day, but now we're about to set up another interesting scenario because Christian Fittipaldi has been as fast as Scott Pruitt and able to stay ahead of Alonso Jr. So if he stays out when Scott Pruitt, the current leader, hits onto yellow, Christian will get back onto the lead lap.
Pruitt continued, there he is.
He didn't come in that time, so he's obviously got enough fuel for one more lap. We were told he would make a stop in 2 laps. There's Krosnoff's car. That's a Reynard with the Honda engine. Pruitt, the current leader, has to make the pit stop. Gets a break, will make it under yellow flag conditions when everybody is slowed down. A big break for Scott Pruitt. But he needs to get in there as quickly as possible. Because if they stack up behind him, he'll go to the back of the line.
Yeah, that's right.
Going slow now. Oh, the pace car caught him. He didn't need this.
No.
He could have stopped before he was caught by the pace car.
Al Jr. took the opportunity to come in. John Smales in the pit lane, more information.
And Michael Andretti, what a dog of a day.
Yeah, basically, that's a good word for it. You know, we just can't seem to do anything right now, but we'll keep plugging away, and hopefully it'll turn around one of these races.
What's gone wrong today, Michael?
Something in the engine. I think if you like
fire in the pit lane. There's an enormous fire in the pit lane. I looked to the right-hand side of our commentary box. I saw some of the crew members jumping up and down. We've lost one of the fuel tanks. It's come over the wall. Obviously, what's happened is that Brian Herter is driven, I would say, with the fuel filler still attached. It's dragged the whole fuel tank apparatus over the wall. Notice that they douse a methanol fire with water.
And not only does his team douse it, you saw the Kmart Newman Haas team down there because they know this could be a potentially very serious situation. So everybody, every team that's within running distance of that will go down with a bucket of water. We saw a crew member on the ground earlier being doused with water also, but thankfully we did not have a naked flame because that could have been a huge ball of flame. Of course, ball of flame is a relative term because with methanol you can't see it. You see the heat haze, but you can see there on the left side of the screen the fuel tank was actually dragged all the way over the concrete pit wall and is laying on its side in the pit lane.
Well, that's a situation that nobody ever wants to see in motor racing. Remember, cast your mind back a couple of years ago to the German Grand Prix Formula 1 race, Dutchman Jos Verstappen, the Benetton, that huge fire there. That was with a different type of fuel to the fuel that we use in IndyCar racing. This is the great shot from overhead that shows you precisely what's happened. You can see that the whole fuel tank and gantry apparatus has come across the wall. Now Pruitt is in, takes on 40 gallons, fresh Firestone tyres. Some of the crew from Team Rahal, hopefully everybody's under control there, but that was an enormously dangerous situation. Car's been wheeled away now, situation being cleaned up. I just happened to catch it out of the corner of my eye, people jumping up and down all over the place. The problem with methanol, you can't see it when it's burning. John Smales?
Our own Matt White from Channel 10 was in fact working in the Rahal pit. Matt, you're an eyewitness. What happened?
Quite scary, John. I was just watching the Brian Herter team come in, and just as he went to go back out, it wasn't a bad pit stop. 2 of the guys at the back, the rear left, were still connected. They took a fall. All the rest of the stuff came down with them. Brian Herter was dragged out the right-hand side of the car. Really scary stuff, and all I could see was a whole stack of water being thrown on. That's all they do here.
You saw the fire, Matt, as well?
Well, you don't see anything, Smalesy, as you well know. All I saw was just a collection of people tumbling down and a whole heap of mess. The word in the ear from the team manager was just, get the driver, get the driver. No, 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 they couldn't believe it happened. And it's a real pity because Brian Herter was coming up in the 5th, maybe 4th spot.
That's right, thank you.
Okay, that's the situation down in the pit lane with Team Rahal and Brian Herter. We think Brian's okay, and that's a very bad situation, Derek. We're going to go green in a few moments' time, but that's everybody's drama in motor racing.
And of course, that is one of the reasons why everybody associated with the team and the TV people. You saw our John Smales was wearing fireproof clothing when he's down in the pit lane. Everybody needs to be protected from potential fire hazards.
Well, in the background there, you can see the fueling rig being dragged across the pit lane wall.
I didn't see Brian Hurta actually drive away.
No, I didn't see him flinch either. That's what I was looking for. Taking the whole fueling apparatus back across the wall now. Live shots again.
It did not look as if Brian Hurta was anything to do with that. That's very strange. I've never seen that. But here we go. Green flag again. As soon as they come by the scoring stand here, we can give you an electronic update on how this will shape out after those pit stops. 24 laps to go. Moreno takes the lead.
Now that's actually updated since that graphic was prepared, because Jimmy Vasser is now the new leader from Greg Moore. De Ferran is in third position. Al Jr. is fourth. Scott Pruitt is fifth. Bosell is sixth.
So we saw Jimmy Vasser drive by the pit lane. Oh, look at Vasser down the inside, and Greg Moore comes with him.
On the inside of Matsushita.
Oh, look at this. What happened to Moore?
I'd say he's missed a gear.
Moore.
Yeah, oh, goodness me, what a traffic jam. Okay, down to pit lane again with John Smales.
And I have with me Brian Hurta. Brian, what happened?
Well, you know, I just got out of the pits a little early, pulled the fuel tank over the wall. It's a shame. The shell car was running pretty good. We were just biding our time and got up into the top 10 there. So, you know, the most important thing is just thank God everybody's okay after that.
Now, is everybody okay, Brian?
Yeah, you know, I think one or two guys might have a few minor burns, but, you know, they could have been a lot worse.
What about you in the car, Brian? Did
I'm
you get
fine.
the fire?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm fine. I'm fine.
Jimmy Vasser on the charge, tucked in behind Andre Ribeiro at the moment. Ribeiro driving Tasman Motorsports, and we've got a full course yellow being shown at the start-finish line again. We've got Al Unser Jr. in trouble. Car number 2 was running in 4th position. What has happened here?
Well.
De Ferran.
That's what happened. Contact again between these two cars. De Ferran, we've seen him in the wars today. We saw him at least on 2 other occasions get involved in skirmishes. There were so many cars running together when that green flag came out. We saw Greg Moore get balked. Jimmy Vasser got a good break because he got away from Greg Moore. But here it is. Looks like Al Jr. comes down the inside of De Ferran and clouts the side of him and takes both of them off the road. Between these concrete walls, unless you have a clear run to the apex of the corner, you are making a potentially dangerous and damaging move when you try to come down and squeeze by on the inside.
Team Penske in the wars today.
Great on-board camera pictures there from Jimmy Vasser's car. That's the end of the aftermath. I don't see much damage, but if they've stalled those engines, they can do nothing except wait. So De Ferran gets running, and we saw Al Jr. about to get push started. That is allowed in IndyCar racing. They do everything they can to get these cars fired up again and get them back into the race.
Very difficult to tell from that angle, but the impression from our view of it, as we look here at Al Jr. stranded on the track looking for a push start, was that Al's move was a little marginal, a little as though it was the same sort of thing that we saw before with Michael and Paul.
Well, the most successful team owner in the history of IndyCar racing suddenly has nobody in contention. Emerson went very early with an engine problem. We saw Tracy get drop kicked by Michael, and now we see Al Jr. drop kick Gilles De Ferran. So,
all right, now we're with Michael Andretti here, wandering back down the pit lane and heading up towards the Penske pit. And you can tell by the expression on Michael's face that it has been a good day at the office.
I don't know whether he's on his way down to see Paul Tracy or not, but I'd be curious to have a microphone on the two boys. I don't think he is.
I don't think it'd be a really good idea.
No, I think Michael's just on his way back to the garage to get changed. See the tire marks on Al Jr.'s car? Not a wise idea to try and make that squeeze move.
So it's all happening here on the Gold Coast. Al's been kick-started once again. The car's fired up. He is underway. De Ferran did not lose a lap. We're going to have more of this fantastic IndyCar battle coming your way in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Gold Coast, and the battle lines have been drawn again because Vassar has Scott Pruitt right behind him. Third place is Greg Moore right behind him, and fourth place, Raoul Boesel. They are all in a line. Unser Jr. did get running again. He is 15th. But here's the scary part of what happened today. We believe there is flame. Brian Herta jumps up and down. That's him with the blue and red helmet, jumping up and down to try and alert his crew members that there is flame and that they need water to dilute the flames. So it was Brian Herta. We saw somebody on the ground earlier. What they did is they threw their driver, Brian Herta, down. What a scary moment for a driver, Neil. You know this. Flame is one of the worst fears for a driver.
Terrible. I've only ever had it happen once, and I'm hoping never to have it happen again. Okay, we're just about set to go racing once more. The situation, as Derek explained, Vassar, Pruitt, Moore, Boesel, Lawson. The green flag is being shown. What about Eddie Lawson? Creeping up slowly but surely as the green flag is revealed to the field.
Great experience for Eddie Lawson, but Firestone, Firestone, Firestone in the top three. Remember at the top of the show, Jim McGee, team manager for Scott Pruitt, said on the long haul they thought the Firestone tires were consistent and were a little bit better. This is beginning to prove it here. But has Scott Pruitt, with 21 laps to go, got enough speed to challenge Jimmy Vassar?
Update situation, lap 46 of 65, Jimmy Vassar leading from Scott Pruitt, Greg Moore in third place. That's Pruitt, you can see on screen there at the moment. Behind them is Raoul Boesel in fourth position. Eddie Lawson, world motorcycle champion, is in fifth place. Mauricio Gugelmin, despite the spin he had earlier on, is sixth. Carlos Guerrero, seventh. De Ferran obviously had some problems earlier and has dropped back down the order. Roberto Marino is ninth, and Christian Fittipaldi is 10th, making some advantage out of these caution periods. More from the McDonald's replay. Gugelmin down the inside
of Lawson. Did Eddie Lawson lose his fifth place? Look at this. Everybody smokes everything they have, and Gugelmin tries to sneak inside Lawson, which I believe he did. Whoa, Fangio in the Toyota gets it wrong. Under braking again. These cars are so unstable. But Vassar is in real good shape here because Pruitt does not seem to be able to hang on to him at all. Vassar's in control.
You hear that locked brake again, squealing tyre.
This team has a very sophisticated third spring suspension setup on these two cars, Zanardi's, which is out of the race, and Jimmy Vassar. 20 laps to go. Vassar does have enough fuel, believe it or not. Although he leads the race, he has made 3 pit stops. Pruitt and Moore have only made 2. So Vassar has used these yellow flag caution situations very well.
Saw from the caption there that Vassar's been the fastest man so far. The only guy, in fact, to dip into the 1 minute 37 bracket. Pruitt's best lap of 38.26. Boesel driving for Barry Green, last year's champion team. Brahma, beer from Brazil, in case you're wondering.
Barry Green said in the hotel yesterday, one of those weekends. He meant by that is things just did not go their way. Robbie Gordon out ahead of us here has just come down the pit lane, but Boesel having his best run of the year so far. A team that is learning each other's quirks. Raoul Boesel has a new team engineer here, Tino Belli. They need to get to know each other, understand what the driver wants, but they would be well pleased to take away championship points for a top 4 position here.
It takes a while to establish that rapport, doesn't it? It almost becomes instinctive as a driver and an engineer build a relationship. And of course they're learning new cars in 1996, and we heard earlier that this deal came together a little late as we watch Raoul using all the horsepower. And if deals come together late, then it tends to put you behind in your program. If other people have been out testing, been doing the mileage, then they'll have an advantage, and it takes a long time to catch up in this game.
And it's important not to underestimate that. We watch a close-up shot of Matt Schuster squeal his brakes on the way into the Haviland hairpin, and then the long shoot down this front straight. That's Gugelmin at the top of your picture. Gugelman moved into 5th place, being watched here by Mark Blundell. Glad to be here, Mark Blundell. Eddie Lawson still in 6th. Was in 6th. The Ferrer just got by him, as did Christian Fittipaldi.
Hero driving for Dale Coyne, Walter Payton. On screen at the moment, you can see Gugelman in the Pac West car, the only Pac West car running, as Derek pointed out.
Believe it or not, Gilles de Ferran is still being shown in 6th place, the man that's been in everybody else's battle all day. He survived the skirmishes. There's your top 3. Greg Moore in the blue car on the top of the picture. Vassar looks good. He has looked good all day long. We thought Scott Pruitt did have a challenge, but maybe Pruitt might be forced to drive defensively here, trying to hold off Greg Moore. What a sensation Greg Moore has been this year. 20 years of age and a maturity that is so unusual for a man with such young shoulders.
Scott Pruitt lapping 1 second slower than Jimmy Vassar on that last lap, and in actual fact Moore was quite a bit quicker. More action in the chicane, courtesy of McDonald's. Let's have a look at this replay. You can see the front of the car bouncing around over the ripple strip. There's the gap back to Scott Pruitt. There's the gap back to Greg Moore.
Only just a kiss of the curb, and Greg Moore staying well away from it. His dad is here to watch him. His dad obviously is his biggest supporter. Canadian headlines are all over the newspapers with this man's achievements. At 20 years of age, to think he goes all around the world racing these Indy cars. What a future he has.
Remember, it's his first visit to Surfers Paradise. Way back in 11th place in the standings at the moment, but more by courtesy of the fact that he had that problem at Rio. He really should have been amongst the points. That's the leader, Jimmy Vassar. A lot of fresh air behind young James at the moment as we take the onboard shot over his right shoulder. Very slow 90-degree left-hander, 2nd gear, grab 3rd gear, sequential gearbox in this Reynard. Poke it back down to 2nd, turn it in, apex of the concrete wall, unleash 900 horsepower. Along the Esplanade, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Past the 400, past the 300 marker, braking about 250, turn it in. Faster approach, very slow exit. Another 2nd gear exit, 3rd. Oh, on the rev limiter for a long time. I reckon he might be getting the... Oh, Carlos Guerrero in trouble. Right-hand front wing missing. You know what, Neil? That is an ominous sound that we just heard. We were on board, had the audio pump so you could hear it yourself. That is an ominous sound when the leader is having so much trouble with that gear, as Carlos Guerrero has at least his 2nd crash of the weekend. That's the 2nd time that we've heard Vassar's car do that. I reckon you're right, Derek. I reckon we might be seeing the beginnings of some sort of a gearbox gremlin. This is Carlos Guerrero. Not a happy boy. Made a mistake, tagged the tyres. Full course yellow has come out, so this will change the complexion of the race again. Quick chance to update the positions here for you. Vassar leads. Scott Pruitt 2nd. Greg Moore is 3rd. Raul Bassel is 4th. Maurizio Gugelman is 5th. John Smales.
Yep. Michael Knight from Jimmy Vassar's team is with me at the moment. Michael's concerned as to whether you can get to the finish with the fuel that Vassar's got in the car.
Well, this race is always a fuel consumption race. Everyone is basically in a conserve mode on fuel, but again, we have another full course yellow here. That's saving fuel all the way around. What happened is these series of yellow flags is basically everybody in a fuel conserve mode. So with the Target Reynard Honda, we're okay.
Are you going to be able to get through okay? You were talking about Nigel Mansell in 94.
Well, we 3rd pit else is making 2. I would just remind all the great Australian viewers that we have on 10 Network that I was associated with Nigel Mansell. We made 3 pit stops in this race because we thought we had a tire going flat. Everyone else made 2 pit stops, but because of the sequence of yellow flags, it worked out and Nigel won the race. So that's kind of a similar situation we have going on here right now.
And although that we had difficulty hearing all that, it was a tire going flat that Michael Knight was talking about with Mansell, which necessitated their 3 pit stops. But as they clean up Carlos Guerrero, the field is all bunched up again behind the pace car. Vassar looks to have the speed over Pruitt. We'll be back to watch the conclusion. Welcome back to the Indy Carnival on the Gold Coast, and it is all about to happen. We have less than 15 laps to go. The leaders are all in the line. Greg Moore is pressurizing Scott Pruitt. Bozell in the Brahma car is 4th, but Vassar seems to have a measure of Pruitt. 15 laps to go, but is Jimmy Vassar getting himself into gearbox problems? Have a listen to this. It's a replay of what we heard earlier on. Gets through the chicane, nice and cleanly. Now listen. That is Jimmy Vassar having difficulty getting that fifth gear. That was the gear that broke on Bobby Rahal's car, and that also broke the rest of the gearbox. So Vassar needs to hang on and be mechanically sympathetic with that car, or Scott Pruitt will pounce.
Yeah, it's the 4th to 5th shift, and he's actually grabbing a whole heap of neutrals in that process, and every time he tries to drag the gear in at those high revs, it'll be doing damage to the gear, and the more junk that's flying around in the gearbox, the more likelihood of there being a problem with the transmission that could put him out of the race. Let's hope not. Fingers are crossed. Jimmy Vassar is the leader from Scott Pruitt, Greg Moore. I can't help thinking all the time, Derek, there's something wrong with the Pruitt car that we don't really know about. Remember, it's a Lola in second position, a Reynard in first position, Honda Power in the lead at the moment.
And it is a cable-actuated gear shift on the Reynard. So you actually pull the lever back, and as soon as you take your foot on and off the throttle pedal, it changes gear.
Tremendous shot. Looking out of the back of our race leader to this man, second place, Scott Pruitt. In third place, driving for Jerry Forsyth, the player's car, is Greg Moore. This car looks a little like last year's champion car and team, Jack Villeneuve and Team Green, but in actual fact, different driver, different team.
When he drove the Indy Light Series in America, he had to get special dispensation to be allowed to drive. He was too young to hold a competition license to drive the open-wheel Indy Lights cars. This is a man that makes so few mistakes. Remarkable.
All reports from the pits suggesting that Roberto Moreno, the Brazilian, has problems with his transmission.
Vassar is not pulling away from Pruitt as quickly as he did earlier in the race. He does have a nice comfort zone as he flashes by in front of us here. It is 1.3 seconds, which is actually 0.2 of a second more than it was on the previous lap. So he does have enough speed to hold him off. Does he have a strong enough gearbox?
3 Brazilians in 4th, 5th and 6th, Bosell, Gugelman, De Ferran, and Christian Fittipaldi behind him, so there's 4 of them together. Countrymen all doing battle.
And Christian, who got held up so badly in that Michael Andretti crash with Paul Tracy, he stalled, lost the lap, got it back under that yellow flag condition, and now is well back into that top 10. I'm surprised De Ferran is able to run 6th with all the skirmishes he's been in. There he is in the yellow car at the top of your picture. Watch the cars roll through here. Bozell, that is Gugelman right behind him in the Pac West car, and Alonso Jr. follows him, although Jr. is 12th and 1 lap down.
Let's have a look at the leaderboard after 53 laps of 65. Jimmy Vassar leading from Scott Pruitt, Greg Moore in 3rd place, Bosell in 4th place, Mauricio Gugelman in the Hollywood car is 5th, De Ferran is 6th, Christian Fittipaldi 7th, Stefan Johansson is 8th, Eddie Lawson is 9th, Andre Ribeiro from Brazil is 10th, Roberto Moreno is 11th, has some transmission problems, Alonso Jr. is 12th, Matsushita is 13th, Guerrero is 14th, Robbie Gordon is 15th.
Gordon went by our position here 2 or 3 laps earlier, and the car just sounded terrible, so it's not a surprise that he is now so far back. But De Ferran running well here, may take points away with him. 6th place, enjoys the power of the Honda engine. Struggled here in qualifying, didn't have a fair run. Another man who could have won the first 2 races, led in Brazil till they ran out of fuel. In fairness to the team, they didn't run out of fuel. The fuel was in the car. The pickup that drags the fuel into the fuel injection system was not able to pick up the last 5 gallons.
Turned down an opportunity to drive for Tom Walkinshaw this year in Formula 1. Probably turned out to be the right decision because Tom's no longer involved with the Ligier Formula 1 team. I believe now involved with Arrows, if the rumours are correct, coming out of Brazil this weekend. This is the leader, Jimmy Vassar. Still that air gap back to Scott Pruitt. Greg Moore 3rd. Raul Bosell is 4th.
Vassar looks good here. Highest he's ever finished. Oh, he louts the curb, drives over the top of it. He hasn't done much of that today. 4th place in 1994 is his best result here. Last year he was 8th. Didn't have a good time. But he has all the tools at his disposal to this afternoon here on the glorious Gold Coast. He knows he has the measure of Scott Pruitt. He knows now if he can just keep the car together and not make a mistake at the critical time, that he may have his second win of the season and of his career.
Of course, he nearly got a win last year, Derek. That problem where Al Jr. was disqualified. Oh, Ribeiro locks up the fronts and almost tags the wall. Now, did he stall the engine, I wonder, as we go back to the race leader? Yeah, Jimmy inherited a win last year, and then it was taken off him again in a subsequent hearing.
And he was never happy with that. Never happy with that inherited win. Here's back with Ribeiro. He turns in, look at the flat spot on that right front tire, where he locks it up, simply goes down the escape road, almost gets greeted by those wonderful energy-absorbing tires, which are the racing driver's best friend when you get in trouble. There's 10,000 tires that lines this 4.5-kilometer racetrack here, and there is no better way to absorb the energy of an errant race car than have it get sucked into those tires.
Ribeiro was in trouble in the left-hand turn that brings him onto the Esplanade, onto the back straight.
You saw with the picture that Greg Moore is now being dropped by Scott Pruitt also. Greg Moore needs to do nothing more in this race. He doesn't need to challenge Scott Pruitt. A third place, get him up on the podium, would be a phenomenal result in only his third IndyCar race.
He tore the field apart last year in Indy Lights competition. Indy Lights cars, for those who are unfamiliar in Australia, are very much like our Formula Holden cars, a single-seater, not unlike these cars to look at, but lighter, less horsepower, around about 400 horsepower, powered by a V6 Buick engine. Greg Moore, 3 years of Indy Lights competition, and unbelievably strong last year. I think took 10 of 12 events. That's a remarkable performance, eclipsing Paul Tracy's previous record. Jimmy Vasser, does he have this gearbox problem? Let's listen. 10 laps to go. Sixth gear now. Down through the box, turn 1, Barter-Card chicane.
Doesn't clip the curve.
Just on the rev limiter very lightly. Back to second gear, third, fourth, fifth. Clean change, then fourth to fifth. Watch the brake markers zing by. 400, 300, 200, 100, hard left. Second gear, 65 kilometres an hour. Easy on the throttle, not making too much oversteer. Up to third gear, then back down to second again. Another 65 kilometre an hour corner. Listen to the upshift. Esplanade, braking hard. Turning in here, 80 kilometres an hour. Jumps the ripple strip slightly. Little bit of oversteer, controllable. This is where he missed the gear before. Sounds good. Up to the Foster chicane. 300 kilometres an hour on the approach. 100 k's through here. On the gas again. 225 kilometres an hour beneath the Qantas Bridge. On the brakes. Left-hander. McDonald's replay shows Jimmy's line through the chicane, not using the curbing aggressively, just kissing the apexes.
And you're not home and dry here until you see the checkered flag. Remember last year, Michael Andretti trying to hold on to second place and hold off Rahal, clouts that wall coming out of the Foster chicane. So until you see the checkered flag here, you don't really have anything to show for your weekend's work.
We're back on the front straight, another lap down. 56 completed for Jimmy Vasser, and the margin back to Scott Pruitt is 3.28 seconds. There is Scott Pruitt in the Lola Ford. Firestone tyres are 1 and 2 in this race, and 3 with Greg Moore right behind, car 99.
And of course, one of the interesting pieces of scuttlebutt running up and in the pit lane before we ever started a run here this weekend was, would the Honda engine that has so much power up high be good enough around a street circuit? They really thought the Mercedes-Benz engine would have an advantage here. This is a Ford engine of Scott Pruitt's car. But I'll tell you now, Honda, whether it is on a slow street circuit or a super speedway, definitely have proven a point that they have the fastest and one of the most reliable engines in IndyCar racing at the moment.
When you consider the difficulties they had when they came to the program, Derek, when they were with Bobby Rahal, it's been a remarkable turnaround, and it started in early 1995 when Steve Horn stuck his neck out, put his hand up for Honda engines, and they have slowly but surely, meeting by meeting, improved their performance to the point where they are now dominant. Lap 57 of 65, the 10 leaderboard shows Jimmy Vasser is the leader with a margin of 3.28 seconds to Scott Pruitt. Greg Moore is third. Raul Basel is fourth. In sixth place, we've got De Ferran. In seventh, we've got Fittipaldi. Eighth is Johansson. Ninth is Lawson. Ribeiro is 10th. Let's have a look at the next five. We'll have a look at them later. We're back with more of the IndyCar action in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Gold Coast, where Jimmy Vasser enjoys a 7-second cushion of a lead over Scott Pruitt. He is in control. He has not made a mistake. All day he's had some gearbox troubles. We've been on board with him when he's had those problems, but he's settled down now, pulling away from Scott Pruitt, who is also pulling away from Greg Moore, who's falling back into the clutches of Bozell, Gugelmin, and De Ferran, who are all running together.
It's quite a close battle as we look over the shoulder of Jimmy Vasser. Or Bozell, Gugelmin. In fact, the Bozell-Gugelmin battle with De Ferran tucked in behind is pretty lively, but this is the leader, Jimmy Vasser, comfortably cruising along at the moment. Last lap was a 1:38.5, so he has maintained the pressure. His best lap was a 1:37.8, so he's still running at a very hard race pace. For example, Scott Pruitt's last lap was a 1:41.8. In fact, that was very slow.
Vasser is currently, was voted 1995's most improved driver. He affectionately discusses that with people and says, how bad was I the year before?
6 to go. Scott Pruitt here in second. Last lap time was perhaps traffic polluted. We'll see. About to cross the start-finish line. We'll get an electronic update with thanks to EDS. He's going slow at the moment. Last lap for him was a 1:41.05. Greg Moore still in the 39s. Moore is still third. Basel is fourth. Gugelmin is fifth. De Ferran is sixth. Christian Fittipaldi is seventh. Stefan Johansson is eighth. Eddie Lawson is ninth. Ribeiro is 10th. Al Jr. is 11th. Matsushita is 12th. Roberto Marino is 13th. The last car on the track at the moment.
That Gugelmin, De Ferran is
the short shoot here, second to third. We're watching Scotty Pruitt.
Now you have to behave yourself, and look at the battle here. These boys are all in a dogfight for position. That is Bozell, Gugelmin, De Ferran, and Christian Fittipaldi, the Brazilian bunch, all fighting for 5th, 6th, 7th position. 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's no love lost here between these boys when they're on the racetrack. This is serious business. De Ferran got away with so many knocks and bangs earlier. Can he get by Mauricio Gugelmin and take away that 5th place? Can Bozell hang on and get his best result of the season?
Brazilian beer battles Brazilian tobacco, battles American oil. De Ferran driving for Jim Hall. Great history in American motor racing, having come successfully from Can-Am to Formula 5000 to Indy cars. This guy was recommended by Adrian Reynard and Rick Thorne to Jim Hall because of his enormous strength in Formula 3000. Didn't win the championship, but a noted hard runner.
I don't think you've seen the end of this battle here yet, because we might have a couple of excited Brazilian boys here that need to pick up championship positions. De Ferran does not like to hang around behind people. He is very brave, goes for the apex. Bozell may go into defensive mode here. Gugelmin needs to take away championship positions, has not had a good season. Also had a mechanical failure in Rio. The very same thing that happened to Mark Blundell also happened to Gugelmin. He got away with it. Blundell didn't. Christian, of course, is happy to sit back and let the boys begin to attack each other.
De Ferran drove for Paul Stewart Racing, the organisation, of course, run by Jackie Stewart in Formula 3000. And some of the scuttlebutt around the pit paddock suggests that when Jackie sets up this new Formula 1 team, we may well see De Ferran involved. There's the split, first to third, 15.4 seconds.
Yeah, but these boys are beginning to close in on Greg Moore. Now, Greg Moore has never gone this distance on a street circuit in a car as big and as heavy and as fast as an Indy car. Is he race fit? I'm a firm believer you never get fully race fit until you go through the motion of a full race like this, no matter how much time you spend in the gymnasium.
At least this circuit doesn't have high G-force loading across the corners, so maybe his neck will survive, Derek, but he will be very hot, very tired, very dehydrated. We're riding with the leader at the moment. 4 laps to go for Jimmy Vasser. A very healthy margin over Scott Pruitt. And it's 11.64 seconds back to Scott Pruitt. That's a very healthy margin. Greg Moore in third, as we've been telling you. Cosworth Engineers looking at telemetry.
I don't want to say they're concerned, but they certainly keep an eye on the computer screens. Something we would like to pass along to everybody is that there has been a wonderful attendance here over the 4 days. A total of 216,000 people have come here to the Gold Coast to watch the events at Surfers Paradise, with 85,000 people being here on race day to watch what may be Jimmy Vasser's second ever IndyCar win.
Raul Vassell dropping down through our leaderboard here as well, so Team Green Brahma Sports entry may have some problems. Vasser, Pruitt, Moore, Gugelman, De Ferren, Fittipaldi. That's the order at the moment. Stefan Johansson has crept up to 7th. So Bazell with problems. Jimmy Vasser in the lead at the moment, and likely to stay there.
Now Gugelman is chasing Greg Moore. Gugelman may be able to have a chance to get up onto the winner's podium here. John Smales?
Absolutely glued to the monitor and biting his fingernails is Chip Ganassi. Chip, how do you feel?
Well, we got about 3 or 4 to go here, and you know, this race at Surfers, there's always some excitement the last few laps. I'm kind of hoping there's no excitement today at the end.
What are you hearing from the driver?
Everything's fine. He's just cruising it. He's got about a 11-second lead right now. We just want to make it to the finish, bring it home in one piece.
A win at Homestead now here, Chip. How would you feel?
I don't want to talk about wins until they happen.
Thank you, Chip.
The man who said he made major changes, Chip Ganassi, will say, no, I just took advantages of opportunities. The opportunities, of course, were to change to Firestone tires and to put that Honda engine behind Zanardi and behind the current leader, Jimmy Vasser.
This is second place Scott Pruitt, now 12.05 seconds behind race leader Jimmy Vasser.
And Pruitt's problems may not be over, because Greg Moore has now come to within 2.5 seconds of Scott Pruitt. There it is on your screen. That is Gugelman, that is just at the top of the picture, embroiled in his battle with Gilles de Ferren and Christian Fittipaldi behind him. Johansson is 7th. Eddie Lawson is still 8th. Great run for Eddie Lawson. Rivera was 9th, and Alonso Jr., despite his problems today, is in the top 10. But look at de Ferren. He shadows every move of Gugelman.
Very few people in this race would be as fit as Eddie Lawson, and that would be counting for him at the moment in 8th position. Trains very hard, lives at Lake Havasu, Arizona, and really works on his fitness, a carryover of his days in World 500cc motorcycle competition. This is de Ferren, the Brazilian.
And Gugelman does not have the most potent Ford engine available. Still has last year's Series 2 XB. The interesting thing about that is it was the fastest Ford engine car down the straight in Rio. So he doesn't believe it's of any problem to not have that latest XD engine that Ford now have for the IndyCar owners.
2 to go. 2 laps to run for Jimmy Vasser, this man. We're with him. No emergence of this gearbox problem, and no real drama with brakes, which we talked about early on. So obviously the pace has been such that the brakes have hung together.
I hate to tell all you Raul Boesel fans and fans of Team Green, but Boesel is reported to have run out of fuel on the track with only 3 laps to go. So whatever yellow flag incidents they took advantage of, it has bitten them badly out of fuel for Boesel.
Short shifting, not using all the revs. Conserving fuel, conserving the car, maintaining the gap, and it is 11.63 seconds.
Jimmy Vasser has a great following in America, particularly in California, has his own fan club, thousands of members. His family are glued to the television. Back in the States, he's come halfway around the world, and he is very, very close to winning his second IndyCar race. This is the time when the emotion begins to take over. You realize you may just have this one more lap to go when he flashes past our commentary box position area. You'll see the white flag from Jim Swim Tall. We look out the window. It's up on your left-hand side. There it is. Vassar has only 4.5 Ks to go.
Now he's going to take it very gently into the Bartercard chicane for the last lap. Second to third. Brake gently, back to second. Doesn't want to clip a curb, doesn't want to make a mistake, doesn't want to think about the win until it happens. 3/4 of a lap to run.
And a job well done by everybody. Now, I don't care how cool Chip Ganassi looks. He does bite his nails. He does get nervous. The heartbeat does go up because he has a huge investment in this team and in these two drivers. He has said many times in the past, Jimmy Vassar is my main man this year. And Jimmy Vassar suddenly has emerged as a true team leader, and mistake-free drives like we've seen from him today is a mark of those team leaders. Vassar has it all in control.
And this is going to consolidate his championship lead as they head to Long Beach in 2 weeks' time. Half a lap to run. This is the Foster chicane, gently in. No ripple strips. Eases out the other side. He knows that he's got a very healthy buffer. In fact, he's allowed it to close slightly. Scott Pruitt down to 10 seconds behind now, but it does not matter.
It took 6 weeks to build this temporary racetrack here. It takes another 3 weeks to pull the whole thing down. But it has been a glorious weekend here. In fact, all week long, the activities, the festivities are now capped off with a superb win, we think, by Jimmy Vassar. And of course, he goes to his backyard in Southern California in Long Beach for the next round with what will be, again, a lead in the championship. Vassar comes down, and he takes the checkered flag. Jimmy Vassar puts the arm in the air. Job well done for everybody at Chip Ganassi Racing. You deserve the celebration, boys. This is a true team effort. Scott Pruitt goes by in second, and Greg Moore, we believe, hangs on for a third place.
Yes, Greg Moore for third.
Wonderful run for Greg Moore also. Not to take anything away from Jimmy Vassar's accolades and the cheers from the crowd as he goes by here, but what a wonderful run for Greg Moore also. Look at Jimmy Vassar. Wave to the crowd. What a great feeling.
5th time for Jimmy Vassar on the Gold Coast. 3 did not finish results previously, and his best previous result was a 4th placing. This really does the job today.
And remarkably, the record continues here at the Gold Coast because nobody has ever won this race more than once. There has been new winners every year since 1991. John Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Nigel Mansell. What a wonderful weekend that was. Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy last year, and another new name now. Jimmy Vassar joins the winners list here at Surfers Paradise
and leads the championship now with 46 points over Scott Pruitt with 42 points. Significant, Derek. Firestone, Firestone, Firestone.
Oh, don't tell the Goodyear boys that, because they have feared a true challenge from another tire company, and Firestone have mounted that challenge. But as we watch out the window here, Jimmy Vassar waves to the crowd. Everybody on that Chip Ganassi team is about to greet him, and there's another very happy team. Scott Pruitt has yet to lead a lap. In fact, he did. He led some laps earlier today, led 2 or 3 laps, which is the first laps he has led this year. But he went to the Indy 500 last year leading the championship, having never led anything. But in fact, Pruitt led between laps 37 to 39, and now he's about to taste some champagne. And there's Greg Moore. Wonderful job.
Jimmy Vassar the winner, from Scott Pruitt in second, Greg Moore in third, Mauricio Gugelmin survived for fourth, Christian Fittipaldi a brilliant job to hang on to the fifth, Stefan Johansson is sixth. John Smales, you've got a story for us.
Indeed I have. I've got a very elated Tom Anderson, the crew chief for Jimmy Vassar. Tom, you are really biting your fingernails too, because there were a couple of problems with Jimmy Vassar's car.
We had a fuel tank problem in the internal part of the tank, and what happened on our first stop, we should have put about 36 gallons of fuel in, and we were only able to get 26 gallons in, so we were 10 gallons short. And so had the core stayed green the entire time, it would have messed us up totally, but the yellows came to us. The second stop, we actually didn't get it all in again, so we didn't realize till the second time what actually the problem was. So then on the third time, whenever it was full yellow, we stayed there, and then finally the fuel got enough in the vent tube where we pulled it, and then the yellows at the end helped us conserve it. So the gods were shining on us today.
Tom Anderson, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful scenes of celebration as Jimmy Vassar, looking remarkably fresh, I would have thought, even from this distance. That's Chip Ganassi on his right-hand side, puts his arm around and says, Jimmy's my man. But what a day for the Chip Ganassi racing team, and everybody gets to join in the celebrations. This is what they came halfway around the world for, to try and come here to the streets of Surfers Paradise and go away with the win. There's Jimmy, he's up on top of the car, waves to everybody. You deserve it all. A job well done. A man who was picked up by Chip Ganassi, really without any concrete results. Chip Ganassi just believed he had the talent, and he thought if he gave him the racing car to do the business, that he could do it.
Jimmy, congratulations. From pole to finish, what a race.
It was great. I got to say, this is the best race car I've ever had. It just did everything perfect. We had to make a change for engine cooling right before the start, and we were a little worried about it, but I got to hand it to my whole Target Ganassi crew. They made the right call. It was just the most beautiful race car. I wanted to keep going. It was so nice to drive. It was just great. I owe it all to the team.
Were there any problems with the car at all? We thought there may have been some sort of transmission or gearbox problem.
It started getting a little sticky, but it didn't get any worse. And I got a little bit of a lead there, so I started just trying to make sure I take care of the automobile.
All right, your first trip to not your first trip to the Gold Coast, but the first win here. 4 trips, taken 5 years for it.
Feels great. It's a beautiful place down here. I just hope we can keep coming in the future.
Great scenes of celebration. Jimmy Vassar can hardly control himself. When you give a racing driver a car that feels that good, that's the type of result that you get. Those boys will enjoy the taste of that champagne and take it home to the hotel with them tonight. Jimmy Vassar.
And AJ, this is going to put some spice in the